At the Office, Cleveland's home for sports talk that never clocks out. From the latest headlines to heated debates, we're diving into everything sports. It's your hosts, Noah and Matt.
If you're watching at home right now, watching, not listening, there is a tweet up on the screen. Browns, Andrew Berry, the GM. Honestly, I'm embarrassed by the results we had this year, and I couldn't have said it any better myself. Cleveland, welcome into At the Office, the show where we talk all things sports. I'm your host, Noah, joined with my co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Honestly, I'm the most excited I've been in months for this show.
I am with you, and you can join us at the office too. Send us a comment on YouTube, Facebook, or X, depending on where you're watching. Also, text or call the show 216-260-3433. That is 216-260-3433. Of course, if you're watching live. If you're watching after the fact, please drop us a little comment and hit the subscribe button. Helps us grow what we're doing over here at the office a ton. Matt, welcome to the State of the Union for the Cleveland Browns. How are you feeling about the Browns right now, man?
I think Andrew Berry said it best. Embarrassed by what we just put out there and in a lot of despair about what we're looking at moving forward.
You're in despair. You have no hope. You don't think this team is fixable.
I think it is fixable. I just think we're going to Cleveland it up and not do, it takes a very narrow path to fix this team right now.
I'm with you to an extent. I tend to be the optimistic one, and I'm feeling optimistic because it seems like we're ridding ourselves of the Deshaun Watson cloud that has been hanging around the downtown area since 2022, 2021, whenever the trade happened. Who cares at this point? But I understand how you feel because I have another tweet here. This is a quote from Myles Garrett comparing 2024 versus the 0-16 season, saying this is probably a more disappointing season. So we're all glum. We're all down. The only bright spot we have right now is a number 2 overall draft pick. That we'll get into in a little bit. First, I want to get into 2 press conferences, 2 really important ones that have happened over the course of the last couple of days between Saturday and the loss against the Ravens. Who cares? We got a better draft pick. And the press conference that happened today with the tweet I pulled up to start the show, GM Andrew Berry. So the first thing I want to talk about, we'll get into some of the quick hits, and then we'll get into, some of the bigger things. Is that cool with you, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt, why don't you read this tweet off for me?
So the first one we're talking about, Andrew Berry said they'll have to work through things with Nick Chubb. And then the direct quote pulled is, "We love Nick. In terms of the short term, there's something we have to work through over the next couple weeks."
To me, this quote from Andrew Berry shows that they are not committal about bringing Nick Chubb back. Now, to me, I don't think that's a big thing because if Nick Chubb wants a big-time extension and a bunch of money to continue his NFL career and stash it in the bank, I love Nick Chubb. I love his representation of the city. I don't want it. I would like a 1-year, almost kind of prove-it deal. Show me you can be, 3/4 of the Nick Chubb, 75, 80% of the Nick Chubb you were in the past, going through now a broken foot and before that blown up knee. What was your take on this tweet and on this quote, Matt?
I personally really don't want to see him leave Cleveland. I just think he's, the heart and soul of that offense. If we're doing well, it's going to be with him, even as the RB2. But I also agree with you, especially when you take into account how our cap looks. You can't pay the man superstar RB money right now, not knowing if he still is that superstar RB.
Right,
I think,
100%.
though, coming off of the foot injury like he is, there's almost no way I see him getting a big contract. So I would be very surprised if he ends up signing somewhere else for, a lot of money. I think we will bring him back on a 1, maybe 2 year, but a cheap deal.
Yeah, like a 1 year with a team option or, a void year. However, Andrew Berry likes to set up his contracts. I'm with you 100%. The big couple points, actually, let's go to Myles Garrett for a second. Let's talk about that press conference and the comments that were made by Andrew Berry, because I think this comment from Myles Garrett scared a lot of people. Myles Garrett asked if an extension in this offseason would depend on the conversations he will have with leadership about plans for the future and the direction of the team. He said, I mean, there'll be something coming, which had a lot of people think because he was non-committal. Oh no, he's going to request a trade. What was your reaction to that quote, Matt?
Honestly, I kind of bought into the media saying, oh my God, he's leaving Cleveland. But then once I settled down and thought about it a little more, nothing he said even remotely points towards I'm leaving. It's just nothing he said points towards Cleveland till I die. Like clearly he wants to win. He doesn't want to waste his career.
Right.
And I think he's just trying to put pressure on the team to actually do the right thing and make the right moves versus just waste another year and wait and waste another year and wait.
Yeah, I'm with you. This was the next thing he said, though, a little bit later. I feel like we can be better next season. So he started talking about the next season. And then to tie this back into the Andrew Berry press conference that happened today, this was a quote by Andrew Berry. Matt, go ahead if you want to read this for me real quick.
In terms of Myles, my expectation is that he'll have a direct ticket from Cleveland to Canton at the end of his years and expect him to be here and retire a Brown, quite frankly.
So it is this current regime's sole intended purpose to keep Myles Garrett here. I think that matters now. I think that means great signs for next season. But if this coming up season looks like this past season, thank God I can say it's this past season now. I don't think that's going to matter much because there's no way Andrew Berry nor Kevin Stefanski nor any of the coaching staff nor any of the front office is going to be employed in Berea, Ohio come 2027. Well, 2026. My apologies, in my opinion. You agree with that, Matt?
I would agree. We definitely need to have a much better year to keep this staff around.
Yeah. So this gets into the fun part, right, of all these press conferences and everything that's been going on. This was the thing that was solely focused on by a lot of people coming out of the Andrew Berry press conference, and that was Deshaun Watson had a setback in his Achilles recovery that will extend the recovery process for him, which is very interesting to me because then we were talking about, that there is a insurance policy on his contract. And if he doesn't play in a season, then we get to cash that insurance policy and it helps our cap number, this, that, and the other. What do you think is going to happen with Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns in 2025?
I think that this Achilles setback, for those of you who are listening, that was in air quotes. It's very convenient timing for both sides. If you think about what you just brought up, the insurance policy, the way we just redid his contract, it's awfully convenient, and it creates a path that could work out kind of in the best interest for everybody involved. If you're of the thought process, Cleveland needs to get away from Deshaun as quick as possible, which if you're not, quite frankly, you're wrong.
Yeah, I think this is the sign of we're done with Deshaun Watson. He's going to go on the PUP list to start the year, which would make him physically unable to perform or whatever the exact term is. I think I got that right. They would put him on the PUP list, which would then direct him to the point where after the 4 games that he would sit out, if he doesn't make it back from there, he's out for the season, which would then enact that insurance policy. They could cut Deshaun. Deshaun can go on his merry way and continue to film TikToks with his girlfriend and do whatever the hell he wants because we don't care up in here in Cleveland, Ohio. Something I was thinking about, Matt, is do you think Deshaun Watson and I'm not trying to speculate, right? Like, I don't know the guy. I don't know what's going on. Do you think he even truly cares anymore? Because to me, like, I would be at a point, I feel like, if I was in his situation, regardless if the lawsuits are right or wrong or in between. The whole world hates me. I used to be one of the faces of the league. Why don't I just take my money and go enjoy my life with my girlfriend and not have to worry about being in the public eye anymore? Do you think that's kind of what's going on here at this point?
Part of me thinks that's exactly how I would feel. But the other part of me, I don't know if you saw this, but I saw a report come out, and it's from sources close to Deshaun, so that could be literally anything, saying that everything with his physical skill set is still there. It's just all mental, dealing with, the non-football situations he's had to deal with, being hated by the city he's playing in. Like, I understand how that could take a toll. And if he feels confident in his, capabilities, and it does work out where he gets cut and released and he's, clean hands, he can go be a backup and hide away somewhere on the West Coast or something. I wouldn't be shocked for him to give it a run.
Yeah, man. Again, this is complete speculation. I'm not saying that I think he doesn't care about football. I don't know what Deshaun Watson thinks or cares about at this point. To me, I would just think, if I was at a point where I'm making the money that Deshaun Watson's making, and I have a girlfriend and I have all these nice houses that we see on social media all the time, and we see everything that's going on with this man, wouldn't you just be ready to be done and get out of the public eye and enjoy your life and wear your bougie clothing and enjoy your girlfriend and do whatever you need to do with the rest of your life? That's just something I was thinking about. But you know what? Let's go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the QB room, this ESPN article that came out. There's a lot of Cleveland Browns stuff going on. It's built up frustration. We'll be right back at the office after these commercial messages. We are back at the office talking all things Cleveland sports. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the download button if you are listening, to the podcast only, the audio only version of the show. Drop us a comment whether you're watching the show live or not. We'll get back to you in terms of the repost after the fact. And check out our merch store. We got some fantastic merch. We got this nice sticker. We got some mugs, t-shirts, hats. My t-shirt's on the way. Matt's got some merch that he needs to pick up from my house from like 3 weeks ago. We got a lot of stuff over there. That's at theofficecle.com, at theofficecle.com. Lastly, shout out Fans for Sports Network for supporting everything we do here. Matt, let's get back into it. The quotes, the talking, everything we have going on in terms of the Cleveland Browns. Here is another quote that I'd like for you to read from the Andrew Berry press conference.
So this is, again, talking about the quarterback room. And he says directly, that room will look different next year. I mean, he's coming out and saying it. We don't have the answer at quarterback on our team now, and we need to make the move to go find one.
Yeah. Later on in that press conference, he also stated that the trade has not gone in the ways that they thought this trade was going out in terms of the Deshaun Watson trade, basically saying, yeah, we messed up, but he's still on our roster, so I have to be kind of politically correct about it. Love an Andrew Berry press conference, don't you, Matt? Matt, I want to hear what you have to say about some of the quarterback options going on with the Cleveland Browns. I have a few thoughts based off of an ESPN article. Let me pull that article up just to show it. Article, you should go read it if you're a Browns fan. It was a really good read. Browns at a crossroads, where Cleveland went wrong in 2024 and what comes next. It was an ESPN article. I forget who wrote it, so I apologize for that. Matt, what are you thinking about quarterback?
There's a lot of different thoughts that have been, thrown out across social media. A lot of different thoughts I've been having, thinking about it the last few days. And really the general way to sum it up is kind of what I started with saying. We don't have the quarterback we need on the roster. and we need to go find him. There's a few options out there. Obviously, we have the number 2 pick in the draft, but I don't really like any of the guys in the draft. None of them really impress me, and Cleveland doesn't seem like a good situation for a rookie quarterback.
Why do you say Cleveland isn't a good situation for a rookie quarterback? Because depending what they do in the offseason and with the rest of the draft, depending on where they pick, I think it could be a great situation to develop a quarterback. You get a young wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy, a young wide receiver in Cedric Tillman, that both could be good pieces for a quarterback. You're looking at a running back. We'll talk about offensive line in a second because I feel very strongly about this. But why do you think it's not a good fit for a rookie quarterback?
So, I mean, even referencing that article you just brought up, it talks about the success of the Commanders with their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. They're going to the playoffs this year. They essentially went and created what the article referred to as a soft landing for their rookie quarterback. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury, a very solid offensive coordinator that was going to fit to either Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels. They knew they were getting one of those two. They have a really good receiver room, better than Cleveland's. They have a solid O-line. Their defense can hold their own. They had a direction, and they were attacking it. If you think Cleveland knows what direction they're going right now in this moment, I think you're insane.
See, I again disagree with you. Hold on. I again disagree with you because I think some of the other stuff, and we can talk about this, I'll just bring it up now, such as the firing of Ken Dorsey and Andy Dickerson, them going back to some of the fits that Kevin Stefanski ran, a lot of the outside zone running, which is something both Joe Bitonio and Jack Conklin, 2 veterans in the locker room, said that they really needed to get back to because it fit the play style of the offensive line we have so much better. I think they know where they're going. I think what happened this season, in my opinion, if we're talking the larger grand, scheme of things, is that they tried to tailor the offense around Deshaun Watson. It didn't work because Deshaun is no longer good or is too far in his head or whatever the answer is as to why Deshaun Watson sucked at football so bad this season. And now they're going back to what worked and what won us playoff games, got us in the playoffs, and got Kevin Stefanski 2 coaches of the year. I digress. I'm sorry for taking you off your train of thought. Back to you, Matt.
See, I'm actually kind of interested in what you had to say there because pretty much everything you just said says the exact opposite to me. We fired our offensive coordinator. We're going to be bringing in a new offensive coordinator to handle whatever quarterback we go get. We need a new O-line coach. I don't think that's as big of a deal, but if you look at our O-line play, it's been horrible lately. So we need to fix that for any new quarterback coming in.
Tried a new scheme and it didn't work and it blew up in their face way more than it ever could have, is what I think is really what happened here. And I could be wrong. They could go and lose another season. And at that point, we're talking about firing everybody anyway. But if we're wanting to continue to have our faith in Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, as the Haslams do, as they have been pretty good up until this one bad season, I mean, horrible season. They've had some ups and downs. Don't get me wrong. Don't quote me on saying they're the greatest of all time. They're not perfect. No one in the NFL is. I just think they tried too much and they're reeling it back to what works because it's worked and it's still going to work. Matt?
I mean, even talking about, all the change in system and coming back to it, like, There is a route we could go, and to be fair, nothing says we are going back to the system that worked when we went to the playoffs and won games. We have an open offensive coordinator job. Anybody could come in. It could look different.
That's not completely true, though, because in some of these press conferences and that kind of thing, they're talking about going back to the outside zone run, the heavy play action, the stuff that worked with Kevin Stefanski and didn't work this past year because we were trying to cobble together a Ken Dorsey offense, which has always been bad at running the ball because his running schemes have always been bad, especially for older offensive linemen. And we're going back to what works. No, we're not going to get our O-line coach from before. He's in Tennessee, but getting a new O-line coach who's skilled in outside zone run specifically and running the stuff that Kevin Stefanski was a solid, sometimes overthinky, but solid play caller. I think they've already all but said that. And what's up, Barry? How are you doing? Matt, back to you.
So basically, we have to go out and find a perfect complement O-line coach to Kevin, a perfect complement head offensive coordinator to Kevin, and then the perfect complement quarterback all in one offseason. That feels like a very horrible spot to be sitting in.
That's
and
not
that's
what I'm
three
saying.
moves that have to go perfectly.
They don't have to be perfect compliments. Alex Van Pelt was not a perfect compliment to Kevin Stefanski. But he was a good enough compliment to get him 2 head coaches of the year and 2 playoff berths and a playoff win with 1 Baker Mayfield. A quarterback that fits a Kevin Stefanski system is a guy like Joe Flacco, a guy like Jameis Winston, a guy like Baker Mayfield, unfortunately, that we traded away. These are types of players that fit the offense that Kevin Stefanski likes to run, not a Deshaun Watson, not a Shador Sanders, not I think a Lamar would do all right in our system. We'd have to design some more quarterback runs in there. But I digress on that point. I'm using some of these examples of these athletic core improvising-esque quarterbacks. I don't think Russell Wilson does well or does half of what he's done in Pittsburgh in a Kevin Stefanski offense because of the improvisation that they use. I don't think it has to be a perfect fit. I think it has to be a good fit and a scheme fit. A scheme fit does not have to be perfect.
So you're absolutely right in that. But so let's talk along the lines of scheme fit in the quarterback room. If you're willing and ready, are you willing and ready to start the quarterback room conversation a little more directly?
I've been
here?
ready this whole time, brother, because I am a Kyle Trask believer. Not really, but go ahead first.
So Kyle Trask, that's what I was going. Kyle Trask is your man to fit the Kevin Stefanski scheme we're going back to?
No, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, too, when we were talking about our perfect Cleveland quarterback room, right? And this was before we saw DTR completely stink it up and doesn't deserve to be on an NFL field. He does in some capacity, just not as a backup anytime soon. I think what they should do, I think what they're going to do is there's 3 spots in this quarterback room, none of which are going to be taken up by Deshaun Watson. As I said earlier, he's going to the PUP list for sure. What I do think they're going to do is go get a vet like a Kirk Cousins, who with every sign in the world is going to be a Cleveland Brown in 2025. So get ready. They'll take a waiver quarterback like a Kyle Trask, who has done not much in the NFL, was a 2nd-round pick, though. He has played in 5 games, has 4 completions on 11 attempts, 28 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. A guy like that who is a higher draft pick, waiver guy is Baker's backup right now. I think he could fit a Kevin Stefanski system. He has that pro style, build and how he is as a quarterback. I think he fits, but you take a waiver on him because he's not going to re-sign with Tampa Bay for $1 billion. You could get him on a 1-year $1 million deal and see what you got there. And then depending on what happens in the NFL draft, you might take a quarterback. And I'm not saying it has to be with the number 2 overall pick. If you're not sold on Shador or Cam, don't do it, obviously. But what if Drew Aller declares? Because that was withdrawn and now brought back up because he's been having a pretty good playoff. What about a guy like Jalen Milroe, who can sit in the back for a year or 2 and develop his quarterback game more in the later rounds? This is the kind of stuff I think they'll do. What do you think they'll do?
So I agree with you off the rip that Kirk Cousins will be in Cleveland. And honestly, I think if he ends up in Cleveland, he will be the quarterback 1. I think he's the best option available and the best option for Cleveland. The other, the QB1-esque options I've seen thrown around are Cam and Shador. I'm not sold on either of them, to be honest. Although, to be completely honest, I have the worst history in the world for projecting draft quarterbacks. Like, I always pick them wrong, who's going to be a bust and who's not.
Yeah, you love Sam Darnold, man.
I did.
Hey, it might pan out for you now. He might be a Cleveland Brown. That is still potentially an option. He looked like absolute dog shit last night on Sunday Night Football. So there is an option that his money goes way down and they bring him in because he too would fit a Kevin Stefanski offense.
He's actually the next guy I had listed there as a
Go for it.
potential option I've seen floated just because he would fit. I don't see him leaving, though. I see him sticking around and putting JJ on the Jordan Love type plan.
I could see that for sure.
And then, like you said, you're looking at bringing in a 2. I kind of agree with you on what, ideal path you were kind of heading down there. I was looking more at, what we just saw week 18 out of Joe Milton. I wouldn't mind sending a later pick over to the Patriots to get him as our backup competition quarterback. And if Pittsburgh lets Justin Fields walk, I wouldn't hate that. He's not a great fit, but he's athletic and could probably make himself fit, if that makes sense.
Other names to me that make sense are like maybe a Trey Lance, who has bounced around the league a little bit as a waiver guy. I'm not saying this is the guy who's going to be the starter. This is all in the thought process of a Sam Darnold, a Kirk Cousins, what have you. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, even though I feel like a lot of our fan base would hate that personality here. Matt's face just gave you the face that I would make if I wasn't talking. These are some of the options I think that they're kind of looking at to be the starter. Jacoby Brissett, I feel like, is the all right, well, we didn't get Kirk. All right, we didn't get Sam Darnold. Aaron Rodgers is either asking too much or is on too much ayahuasca or whatever the hell he does. Let's just get Jacoby, mellow things out, see what happens with some of these, either the rookie we take, a rookie that we take this year, or like a Kyle Trask or any of these other quarterbacks that we mentioned. I 100% could see them going that route and seeing it still be successful. You don't need the absolute best quarterback play for this Cleveland Browns roster in a Kevin Stefanski scheme to win football games. We saw it with PJ Walker. We saw it with DTR. We saw it with Joe Flacco, who is a shaky quarterback. As much as I love him, he's another name I could see them bringing back because he said he's going to play another year. Shout out Joe. I think the whole town would go crazy if we brought him back, and I'm pissed that I got rid of my Flacco sweater if that happens. There's a lot of options here at quarterback, and I don't know about you. I know a lot of the fan base is really, really upset with the front office, with the coaches, all of the stuff that has happened with this Deshaun Watson trade. To me, out of anything I've seen in my entire life of being a Cleveland Browns fan, which is only from 1999 on. I was born in 2000, so I've only seen shit Cleveland Browns football. They have given me a reason to have faith, and they're getting another crack at this the next year anyway. So why don't we see what this brain trust can do with the top 5 pick, with a good roster that needs some adjustments, and see what happens from there. That's where I'm at with everything. Maybe I'm a little too hopeful for a Monday after a 3-14 season. How are you feeling, Matt?
I mean, we were kind of just talking about it. I very much so disagree with the points you're looking at and finding hope in. I'm finding more reason to lose confidence in the team.
And you can lose confidence. The offseason is an up and down battle, right? I'm not saying that I think this team is going to go out there and win 10, 11, 12, 13 games. I will not come out here and say that until we are in like week 15 and we're like 8-2 or whatever. That math did not make any mathematical sense, but you get what I'm saying.
We've had 5
All
buys.
I'm saying is there's reason to have some faith, and I'm excited to see how this offseason plays out and who ends up being in our quarterback room, who ends up being our draft picks, who ends up fitting this Cleveland Browns roster. Matt, I know we had a whole gambit of other things to talk about. I think this is a good stopping point. I want to ask you one last question before we go into final thoughts and takes. If you were Andrew Berry on NFL draft night in Green Bay, Wisconsin, April of 2025, who are you taking with the second overall pick? Or are you even using the second overall pick, and why?
So it kind of depends on, what the Titans do. I'm absolutely in love with the wide receiver out of Arizona, Ted McMillan. If the Titans make it clear that they're going to go quarterback and move on from Will Levis, that's my pick at 2. I think that would be a great pick, like you were talking about, young wide receiver room. He's a freak. It would, one of the, kind of buzzwords that article we keep referencing brought up was soften the landing. For whatever new quarterback we bring in, you need to soften the landing as much as you can. I think that's a great guy to do it. But he's also been rumored to be going number 1 to Tennessee. If that's the way that happens, I would probably be trading back to the 7, 6, 8 range and go in either Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks, tackles out of LSU and Texas, respectively, whichever one's available there. I think that's also a big need we kind of need to look at. You're muted. You're muted, Noah.
How I would take it, since you didn't want to ask me and then let me talk muted,
I tried.
Oh, okay, sure you did. There's 2 things. First of all, Ted McMillan, I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think he's worth a top 2 overall, top 3 pick. The 2 tackles you mentioned are mocked as of right now to be guards potentially in the NFL because of their size and different things like that. Both of those things worry me with those. I wouldn't mind taking one of those 2 tackles, though, and seeing where they fit in the offensive line, considering Joel Bitonio is going to retire sooner rather than later. Wyatt Teller, we don't know how much longer he's going to be here. We have a center in Ethan Posick, who had one of his worst seasons as a starter. As a Brown, I think it was his worst season. So there's a lot of question marks at the offensive line. I get your thought process. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, there's 2 ways I'm going to go about this. Way number 1 is you've decided one of the quarterbacks in this draft, whether that be Cam Ward, Shadur, if Drew Aller goes and gets draft hype like some people online are mentioning now at this point, you take him with the 2nd overall pick and you move forward. Because if you truly think your guy is in this draft, you have to go take your guy and not overthink it twice. That's what's going to save you your job. That's what's going to push this franchise over the hump. If you don't think your guy's in this draft, which a lot of people don't think that guy's in this draft, and that's totally fine. You field the offers of what's going on. You trade back a couple spots because New York, the Giants want to go take one of the quarterbacks, or maybe the Raiders want to go take one of the quarterbacks, or the Jets want to trade up and take one of the quarterbacks, what have you. You go after Abdul Carter or Mason Graham to shore up. Not that you need to shore up the defensive line, but to make it that much damn better. That's what I would do. Just in terms of going best player available, you don't often get a top pick where you can collect assets off of it and still end up with the top 5 player in the whole pool. That's what I would do.
I toyed with that idea too. And the only reason I stayed away from that is I truly believe we are capable of putting the best defense in the NFL out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, a majority of our problem on defense this year came from the offensive side of the ball, in the fact of we just, we're constantly turning it over, constantly running the defense out there. They're going to break down if you have them out there for 90 plays a game.
100%. Matt, is there anything else Browns-wise you want to touch on before we go to random thoughts and hot takes?
Really the only thing we didn't get to, I know I've brought it up in the past and I want to bring it up again, is, I'm really looking out for JOK, hoping he makes a recovery. And I hate using that word because that's the best word we've heard out of Cleveland, is hopeful. And that's just scary to me. We haven't had a lot of updates about him, but none of them have turned into he's trending in the right direction. He's making the right moves. We're hopeful he can make the right, I'm just really worried about him more as a person than a player, because it's a scary thing he's dealing with.
Yeah, and shout out Mike Hall, too. He had a scary injury in a meaningless game on Saturday against the Ravens. one of the standout draft picks of Andrew Berry. I think he's going to be a very good D tackle for us, unless he continues to get hurt or get caught up in off the field nonsense, which both happened to him in his rookie year. But it looks like it's just an MCL. And I think it's funny we say just an MCL in today's world, because you talk ACL, MCL, PCL, any of it, you're automatically thinking, oh, they're going to be half the player. But now with modern medicine and all of that, he should make a full recovery. Looking forward to his sophomore season. Matt, random thoughts, hot takes, hit me with them.
My hot final take is kind of encompassing this whole episode and boiling it down to one point. And that is, there are a few different avenues we have to go here. All of them we have to do 100%. And that needs to be, we need to make the 100% right moves, and we need to go at these moves aggressively. I think this mostly centers on the offensive side of the ball, but I don't think this team needs a full rebuild yet. And the only way to avoid that is by having a phenomenal offseason right now. Or, the big buzzword, the Super Bowl window is going to close for this team. I hate even saying that, putting Super Bowl out there, but I think we do have a window if we make the right moves, or it's going to close very quickly. So I guess, my hot take is we have to be aggressive and we have to win this offseason, or we're going to be Cleveland for a lot longer.
Amen on that. My hot take is not about the Browns, because they don't deserve as much talking as we have done on this show. It is about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I am taking the same stance I had the last time me and Matt did a show, but I'm going to show you some numbers on the screen. If you are watching the video-esque version, is a tweet from the NBA communications listing who has been voted, with the most fan votes for the NBA All-Star. You can't see it in this screenshot, but number 8 overall is Jordan Poole in terms of the guards. That means Jordan Poole, because Darius Garland isn't on this list, has had more votes to be an NBA All-Star than Darius Garland. And that is a shame on all of us as Cavs fans. So my final thought and hot take for the foreseeable future will be, go out there and vote the big four, the core four, to be NBA All-Stars, because every damn last one of them deserve it, because they are playing absolutely excellent basketball. Matt, you got anything else for me, man?
I think I'm good to go.
For everybody watching at home who has stuck with us this far, we have one last special announcement before we take this show home. We are doing our first giveaway here on the channel. You want to win a Donovan Mitchell jersey? All you got to do is follow us on X, YouTube, and Instagram. You do those 3 things, you're locked in to win the jersey. Winner will be picked February 3rd. Winner must be following us on all 3 platforms. Why not? It's free, and you can always change your mind later if you don't like the content we put out. Matt, it's been a pleasure arguing and debating sports with you today. What about anything else? Anything you're thinking of? Anything you want to say to the people?
I'm excited for baseball season.
Why are you excited for baseball season? Everyone's still doom and gloom about the Dolans.
I love baseball in general, so I'm just excited for baseball season to be here in general.
I'm with you, honestly. As much as I am pissed and want to see them make more moves, as of right now, I'm excited too, buddy. That was a nice lighthearted note to end on. Thank you for tuning in to At the Office, a Cleveland sports show. Don't forget to subscribe or hit the download button if you're listening to the audio-only version of this show. Check us out on all socials. You can see that above my head right here. Hit the follow on X, YouTube, and Instagram for a free jersey, people. It's free. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. Have a better even night. Peace.